Hey, what is up, everybody? My name is Matt Drew. I'm the host of the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors Podcast, the show to listen to and to watch if you are an experienced real estate investor who's mystified of scaling and doing bigger deals, bigger commercial real estate deals, and you feel stuck. This is a show that I've been recording for almost 2 years now that goes into great detail with our guests on how they did their first big deal, or it was big for them at the time, how they found it, how they funded it, and also the glorious outcome, and also the invaluable battle scars they endured and learned during the process of going big. Absolute titans that we've had a chance to interview. Last week, I did announce that we are officially ending the Go Big Live podcast, so it's going to go away. I'm still going to be dropping valuable stuff on our YouTube channel, more on an ad hoc basis when I feel that I really have something insightful or different angle on something I may have already covered in the many hundreds of videos that I've recorded. So make sure, that being said, this is not going to be a weekly thing after I've gone through I'm going to be doing, like I announced last week, I'm going to be doing like 5 more episodes, I think, including this one, until in this sort of format, this sort of like monologue format, that's more like kind of like a distillation of my 19-year career as a real estate investor, scale into over $18 million real estate portfolio. And then also a distillation of all of the interviews that I've done with several dozen guests that we've had that come from all different walks of life and all different backgrounds, which I hope that the listeners here have gotten value and inspiration out of. So that being said, if you've been used to listening to this show in its interview format, I typically start off with the question to my guest: you were born, now you're here, what happened in between? I have had a great time interrogating my guests on the show and getting into those excruciating details of their first big deal and also their background. The reason why I asked that question was because a lot of real estate shows are about like, how'd you get your start in real estate? And based upon my experiences, like, it was never really intentional. It was by accident, but it was a confluence of all the factors that happened earlier in my life, which led me to getting into real estate investing to begin with, and why I scaled from there. So I always wanted to come like back before their start in real estate. And even if there's like childhood trauma and all that stuff that was part of their formative years and what led them to become successful. I've never been asked that question on my own show because obviously I've been the interviewer. So I'm going to answer that today. And if nothing else, right, if you do not get value and enjoyment out of it, part of the reason why I drop so much stuff on social media is because I never had really, for my parents, I lost both my parents early on in my 20s, and I don't have all this stuff, right? And I want to leave this not only for you guys that are listening out there, but also for my kids and, God willing, my grandkids as well. So this is the story of my life in short detail. I'm going to try to get it in less than 15 minutes. I just did a recording where it's up to 45 minutes and I still hadn't gotten beyond college. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be the abridged version, but it's going to be important and hopefully inspirational for you, even on a relatability level. If you've gone through the types of negative things that have happened to me during my childhood and also my early adult years, and also if those things haven't happened and you've had a background where you've had everything hunky-dory, like, it can be hard for people to actually synthesize a sense of urgency in doing big things in their life and business. So hopefully this can add some inspiration to you and help you synthesize that sense of urgency as well. If for nothing else, like, you are going to die, and the circumstances for which you do die, you're not going to be in control of. And every single day is a blessing. So you should have a sense of urgency to really live life on your terms and create that big, beautiful life by design starting today, because you may not get tomorrow. And the universe and God has been very adamant about reminding me of that and our own mortality many, 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 many times. Okay. So backing up a little bit, I was born and raised in Rochester, New York in 1984. I am a proud geriatric millennial. I grew up with having dial-up internet in my household. I grew up with a computer in the household that didn't even have Microsoft Windows. We had MS-DOS. This is actually like a black and white or a black and green screen where you had to type prompts in to bring up programs you wanted. And if you didn't know the actual language Like that thing was like, it was nothing, right? There's no word processor, anything like that. So had a very, very early exposure to the sort of beginnings of technology in the house. And I've always been and always will be, hopefully, an early adopter of new technologies and how it can make our life easier and also our business more effective and also efficient as well. So I was born, I have a brother whose name is Chris and Chris Druin, and we were born in a pretty much a blue collar household. My mother was a dialysis nurse. She was, for the most part of our childhood, the breadwinner of the family. My father was a general laborer at Genesee Brewery. And things started happening early on. And this is kind of like what led to my obsession to success, or whatever I thought success looked like as like as a child or a young adult, right? Because we see it at the surface level. Because my parents they had financial problems, and it ended up leaving them to be driven apart. Which you go from a two income household to two income households, and that's exactly what happened, right? And I'll never forget the moment where I realized where things were not so great in the household was my mother was arguing with my father, and that she wanted him home. My father had gotten his real estate license while he was at Genesee Brewery and started showing houses on nights and weekends in order for them to get beyond the paycheck to paycheck situation. And really the only way that my parents at this point in time, because this is not when information was readily available, the only way to get ahead was to work harder, to work longer, to work more hours. And my mother was content with kind of just like treading water. I definitely don't blame her for that. There's a lot of people in this country that are in that status. And my father wanted to get ahead. And this is really where things started to create a rift in their relationship. And the singular moment that I remember was they were arguing about my father having to leave the dinner table after dinner to show houses. And there was the argument got pretty heated. My father slammed his fist. My dad was a big guy. He slammed his fist down on the table and hit a ceramic plate, and this thing ended up shattering into like 1,000 pieces, like went everywhere. And this is really where I realized, like, okay, things are not right on the home front. And so they ended up splitting up, and kind of like abridge the story, not go into a great amount of details, but this is kind of what led to things getting much worse financially for the both of them. My father had to move into a basement apartment, basement of my aunt's house, a lot of basements that were kind of in my childhood, in my dad's house. And my mother couldn't afford the mortgage payment anymore for the house that they had bought, so she had to actually get a roommate. This is where I was actually exposed to the idea of house hacking before house hacking was a thing. We lived in a split level house, and she got a housemate to live in the lower level. How she found that housemate was through the classified ads, through the local newspaper. And anyways, this sort of like money or lack thereof, I was attributing to like it being the source of all evils and the source of all struggles in life. So I started it early on in developing an infatuation with money and how to create an abundance of it, so I would never have to go through the same things that my parents went through. So anyways, I was had the grand delusion, like a lot of other young people, is that I'm going to go to college. That's how I'm going to get out of this thing and get an exit the matrix, so to speak. And I thought that if I go to college, because we had seen a lot of people that were my parents' age, that like, hey, if you went to college, like you had your ticket to anywhere to do whatever you wanted and have all this financial abundance. And a lot of people in my generation like did that, and we're like, all right, well, there's just a bunch of other college graduates out there that are competing for the same amount of jobs. So they really didn't do that. But I ended up going to SUNY Geneseo, and it was an experience that led to me meeting my wife, Nicole. Right now, we have two absolutely gorgeous kids together. We are able to live that life of financial abundance. Now, I was able to, if it wasn't for her, I would not be where I am right now. Okay. She's an incredible partner. So anyways, backing up, I graduated Geneseo, thought that I was going to be able to apply to Wall Street firms because I had this obsession with Wall Street equals money. I can be cigar chopping Gordon Gekko type and a rapacious capitalist, and then just be able to like create this outcome that I wanted. And I got my first, actually second or third of many slices of humble pie in the process. I was out there applying for jobs in 2006. The economy was doing okay. I was not doing great, and certainly companies were not looking to hire recent college graduates out of liberal arts schools with no experience. And that's exactly what I was. And the best job I could find was as a part-time bank teller at Chase Bank. And my brother and I grew up in a neighborhood that was like, or a town that was more like it was a white affluent suburb. And we were kind of like in like blue collar people, right? We're kind of always like living paycheck to paycheck and that sort of thing. And I would have colleagues that I went to high school with that like on their 16th birthday would have like get a brand new Lexus they'd be driving the school parking lot. So I developed a lot of this like resentment around people with money and certainly kids with money and that sort of thing. And it developed this inferiority complex that was unhealthy for a young adult to have, but nonetheless, it was what it was. And here I was, graduated college, got a job at a part-time bank teller at Chase Bank in the village of Pittsford. That's a town that I ended up growing up in. And there I was cashing paychecks for my colleagues who ended up going to like fancy private Ivy League four-year schools. And I was like, this is like eating a shit sandwich every day. Like, I cannot do this. I was complaining to my father about I hated standing behind a desk. I certainly didn't like the idea of like being like subjugated to the people that were more well off than me or had better circumstances. And so I was going to take any opportunity to leave that. My father extended me the opportunity to get my real estate license because he had basically worked up his book of business working at Genesee Brewery and also at Nothiga Realtors, so that he could work full-time as a real estate agent. And I took the opportunity. He's like, get your real estate license. I'll show you the ropes. I'm not going to give you any business. You're going to have to earn your own business, build your own book, just like I did. And then you can do this on your own, right? And so I was going to take any opportunity to do that. In the meantime, backing up a little bit, this is a major thing that happened in my life too. During college, my mother passed away due to a long battle with cancer. And that was really a situation where I was like, okay, we're not in this world forever. And also going through the estate issue, realizing that my mother's estate was completely upside down. I saw the actual court paperwork with the creditors going after her, and she had more liabilities than she did assets. And I was like, how could this person who worked so hard and was the breadwinner in our family come with a financial outcome like this, with literally nothing left over? So this is like another way that the universe or God was like slapping me around. Is like, you need to figure out this money situation, or else you're going to wind up like your mom or your dad or whoever. Fast forwarding again, I was working at part-time as a clerk in a liquor store to have some walking around money. I was living with my dad. I was trying to build this real estate business, and my dad saw the commission incomes I was getting. And within a few months, I was able to, through really, really grinding it out and selling grinder city properties in the city of Rochester that were between like $30,000-$40,000. He's like, hey, I seen you've earned like about $15,000-$16,000 in commissions. It's time for you to go, son. It wasn't my dream to have a 20-year-old something live with me at home. So you got till the end of the year to either get an apartment with your friends or to buy a house, all right, and live out on your own. I really liked the idea of not having to pay rent because that was a situation that was living with my dad. So I was like, okay, this idea of like maybe buying a multifamily property and renting out all the units and being able to defray my cost of ownership or living rent-free, so to speak, seemed really attractive to me. I set out to find a multifamily property within which to own or occupy. And I was able to find one. I bought the property and I closed in the middle of the month. And 2 weeks from closing, I ended up getting seemed like magic to me. It seemed a combination of criminal and magic, $1,800 in rent check sitting in my mailbox. And I was like, damn, I knew how hard I had to work to earn $1,800 in commission income selling $40,000 houses. This is the ticket. This is that. I knew I wanted to become financially independent. I just wasn't sure how. And I realized like this was the way. So I started doubling down and tripling down on growing a real estate portfolio. And the second deal that I had, because I had spent every single penny on this first deal I bought, $16,000, boom, gone. And the cash flow from deals that you buy is not going to be enough like to really accelerate your portfolio growth. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to. Now I got away with this deal as an owner occupant, putting $16,000 down. For my next deal, I'm gonna have to put down 20%. And that's gonna be like $50,000-$60,000. How in the hell am I going to save up that amount of money? And there was a property that was down the street that my dad would tease me about. It was another 4-family property. It was falling into the ground, 76 Rutgers Street. And every time I got together for pizza and beer with my dad, he would be like, did you check on that property yet? That property going to sell someday. So he kept harping on me. And every time I lied to him, I was like, oh yeah, I can't get a hold of the seller, blah, blah, blah. And so finally I was like, I got to make this old man shut up and stop asking me about this. Out of just being pissed, I ended up finding out who the owner was and trying to make contact with them. And I saw that it was an estate, all right? And I was like, I can't find the estate attorney, so it's over. So anyways, I was walking home from the bar. It was like a Thursday night, and this is the only good thing that's happened to me at being out past 10 o'clock, drunk, walking home from the bars with my friends. And I saw a guy on the front porch who was of this house, and his name was Alan, actually. And I asked him, I was like, hey, who do you make your rent checks out to? And right then and there, he gave me the name and number of the estate attorney that was dealing with this thing. I mean, I could have saved myself a lot of grief and a lot of arguments with my dad if I just would have knocked on the door, but I just didn't have the courage or confidence to do that. And who knows? I may have never even had this opportunity if I would have waited like this. Some other investor could have scooped in and bought this thing out from underneath me, and my whole trajectory would have been changed. I got in touch with this estate attorney, and I was able to walk the property. I ran some numbers on it, some conservative rehab numbers, because I'd already done some slight cosmetic rehab on 102 Rector Street, which is the first property I bought. And then what ended up happening is I was like, okay, I had to buy this thing for $80,000. I'm going to have to put together a $60,000 rehab budget. So I put an offer to the estate attorney for $80,000, thinking it was going to go nowhere. And they ended up accepting it. All right. $80,000 cash. This property could not be financed. It was a complete wreck. And so we got under contract, and I brought the contract back to my dad in the office. I was like, Dad, I have good news and I have bad news. I got this property under contract, but I don't know how I'm going to finance it. And this is how I got introduced to hard money lenders or private money lenders. And so he said, Phil Nothagel, who owns Nothagel Home Securities, actually does some private money lending. So why don't you contact him, present your opportunity to him with the money you need for the acquisition and the rehab, and then maybe he'll fund it. So I presented the opportunity to him. I needed $80,000 for the acquisition. I needed $60,000 conservatively for the rehab, and the property is going to be worth $200,000 conservatively at the end of this thing. So my whole objective was buy this thing with the bridge financing. We called it bridge loans at that point in time. This is back in 2008. And then bring it to a bank, refinance it, and take the hard money out. So that was the whole plan. And so he said yes. So I was able to buy this deal with having zero money out of my pocket. First deal was the magic of house hacking. Second deal was, okay, I do not have to have my own capital as a bottleneck for scaling this thing. Okay. So I'm going to fast forward a big time from now, because we're about 20 minutes in this recording. That being said, I left brokerage for a while, started working for a national real estate development company as their director of operations. So I was responsible from everything from apartment buildings, student housing, medical office buildings, industrial, self-storage, retail, mixed-use office buildings, hotels, everything you could possibly imagine across the entire real estate asset spectrum. And my job was to rapidly turn around properties that were hemorrhaging cash. And a lot of these properties were taken over. Our company took over these properties from large institutional private lenders, and our job was to rapidly turn these properties around, get them bankable, bring them to a bank, pretty much using the Burr strategy on steroids. We're not talking about several $100,000 deals, we're talking about multi-million-dollar deals. Okay, so this gave me exposure to okay, I can bring this thing to a different order of magnitude to get to my goal, which was financial independence or financial freedom by the time I was 40, much quicker. And so I thought the way that I needed to scale was just to buy more small multifamily like I did. And so for the first 11 years of my real estate investor career, as I acquired 25 properties, 76 doors, and by the time I was 33 years old, I was able to replace my income and not have to trade my time for dollars anymore. I started this journey when I was single, remember. Amidst this whole thing, in 2013, I got married to Nicole. And now it was I had financial independence, but if I was going to go backpacking through Europe for 2 months at a time with my wife, that was going to be a thing if she was stuck in a high school math classroom, right? Not very flexible hours. Yes, you get summers off, but teachers work themselves to the bone. And so I was like, oh my God, I was buying 1 to 2 deals a month, really, really hopping, burning the candle both ends while I was scaling this thing. And I was like, I cannot do it the same way. Actually, looking back on it, I don't know how I actually did it. I think it was just pure adrenaline, pure from all this stuff here, like losing both my parents in my 20s, and all this obsession with money, and all this sort of like childhood trauma associated with all this thing, like, and all this dark matter energy that I used to like conjure the spirits to conspire in my favor. I was able to do this, and I was like, okay, I can't do this over again. So I always knew from the very beginning when I bought my first couple of deals that I needed and I wanted to buy bigger apartment deals and bigger commercial assets, because I saw firsthand the amount of wealth that it was creating for the people that I worked for at the development company. So I started off on, okay, I got to stop making excuses for myself. I have to buy a larger commercial deal. I need to replace my wife's income as quickly as possible so both of us can live life on our own terms. And so I found through working networks. And by the way, I spoiler alert, this first larger commercial deal that I bought replaced my wife's income, all right, with one deal in 1 year. And I actually have a full case study on that in my YouTube channel. I'll have it linked to this video right here. But I bought this deal. I was able to get it under contract for $1 million. It was a 20,000 square foot office building in the same neighborhood of where I owned all my other small multifamily properties. And so I had a similar moment with the 76 Rector Street. That property was not bankable. I was like, I have this thing under contract for $1 million. I need $300,000 to close it, which I don't have. I had all of my cash tied up in a major rehab I had going at the time. And so I was like, how do I do this thing? I was like, all right, I never wanted to raise capital. I was always kind of comfortable with doing the hard money, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat model. But this was not going to be a thing with $1 million purchase. I just didn't have any relationships with hard money lenders that had that much dry powder within which to do that. So what I ended up doing is I ended up going the friends and family route, right? So I told all of my family members of like this opportunity. I told them what the upside was on the deal. And by the way, I have all the underwriting that I used on this deal, by the way, in that related video. And so I raised $350,000 at $75,000 a pop from friends and family. And I was able to take that deal down, and I was able to push the value of that property from $1 million to $1.6 million within a year period. I was able to refinance that property later on and to pay my investors back their $300,000. And that deal added $500,000 to net worth and about $60,000 a year in cash flow. Now, reminder, I had to replace my wife's income. My wife was a teacher, and $60,000 was plenty enough to do that. And so this is really where I got bit by the bug of scaling into bigger deals. And so from there, I started pushing the envelope. And instead of buying one deal or two deals a month, I wanted to buy like one big deal a year. Right? I was sick of being busy. I was sick of feeling like I was being a deal junkie and spinning my wheels and buying properties were paying me chump change. So I was like, okay, that part of my career is over. I'm going to focus on larger commercial deals in the process. So I just started telling everybody about what I was doing. I knew that the friends and family, I was gonna tap out of them eventually, right? As I was scaling, you're gonna run out of money regardless of who you're getting capital sources from. So I started getting active on social media, posting about what I was doing as a real estate investor, just to not only grow my sphere, but also indoctrinate my sphere of influence with like the idea that Nat is in real estate and he's good at it, and repeating that mantra over and over again through value-based content, which doing, and this is why I do what I do now. That's the story of really my journey in going big. I have extensive trainings on my channel on that deal in particular that you can check out. But since then, I've graduated into doing several million dollar deals from there. And the order of magnitude of this thing, guys, if you're thinking about doing commercial, it is like, it would blow my mind. I thought making $50,000 on a residential deal was like a big deal. We're doing a refi right now on a property we bought for $2.75 million about a year and a half ago. We signed one lease with a commercial office tenant. This is a government tenant. And that one lease alone for an additional 8,000 square feet they're taking in the building is adding $1.8 million in value to this deal. One lease deal, and about $125,000 a year in cash flow. You don't have to be busy chasing deals to yield really, really life-changing results associated with that. So that's how we've been able to scale to an $18 million real estate portfolio. And I hope this story helps you along the journey. And certainly stay tuned for the next 4 episodes that we're going to drop, which are going to be a distillation of of really the three components of successful commercial real estate deals, and that's capital, how to eliminate capital as a bottleneck to you growing, how to enhance your deal flow, expand your deal flow bottleneck, and really marry those two together. And then also a lot of technical components that I've learned along the process that I've fallen in major pitfalls along my journey that I'd like to share, and also the pitfalls that my guests have fallen into as well during their journey of going big, and also since then throughout their careers. So anyways, I hope this helps. And as always, please like, comment, give me your feedback on what you think. Do you like this format? Do you not like this format? And what you had gotten in terms of a nugget out of this whole thing. And I greatly appreciate it. Until then, see you next week.